All righty, welcome back to the Fast Break Podcast. I'm your host, DaRock. We're here. It's been a minute. Crazy time for me, but it is the NBA Finals starting this week. And in all honesty, this is probably the most excited I've been for an NBA Finals in a long time. We get the Knicks and the Spurs. Got to shout out, some people that had this finals prediction because I didn't see this coming. In all honesty, I didn't see this coming. Like when I did my playoff, prediction a while ago, I just really didn't see it. I did say I could see the Spurs knocking off the Thunder, but it wasn't my first pick. Yeah, my guy David Mays had the Knicks in the finals. He's commenting a lot here on my playoff preview. He did have the Nuggets who lost in the first round, but he saw the Knicks going to the finals, which is the one that I just really didn't see coming at all. I really thought, it was Boston. Granted, Tatum coming back, some of the injuries they've been dealing with. I mean, maybe even a Detroit or a Cleveland. Like the East definitely was kind of more open. I don't know. Maybe I did pick the Knicks as my sleeper team. I honestly would probably have to go back and watch that episode to fully remember. But we got Knicks Spurs. We got, honestly, the guy that might be the face of the league already, Victor Wembanyama, in the biggest market in New York City, taking on the Knicks. A team that hasn't won, been to the finals since 1999, since they played the Spurs in that finals as well. So that's, some really, really interesting, kind of similarities here between, this Spurs run and, that first run for Tim Duncan when it was him and David Robinson, where, they knocked off the Blazers and then the Wolves in the first two rounds. That team knocked off Shaq, who was, kind of the other dominant big, the kind of rivalry there in the West at the time, where this team, takes down the Thunder. Obviously, Thunder didn't exist in 1999. We're still the Seattle Supersonics. Really, still should be the Seattle Supersonics, but that's it for another day. We won't have to discuss that today. But yeah, so we get a lot of similarities there, and then the same like you're saying here, the Knicks first time since '99 they've been in the NBA Finals. And it's once again against the Spurs. So this is, some really exciting stuff. It's the 8th straight year here in the NBA that we're going to get a different champion. We will not have a repeat champion. And out of the last 4 finals, all 8 participants have been different. And honestly, like, as much as, maybe I kind of rag on the NBA product right now, it's honestly at a good spot. I think the playoffs really still are up there. I mean, granted, I love the Stanley Cup finals, Stanley Cup playoffs. But the NBA playoffs, honestly, have really been, just kind of as entertaining, if not more, considering, some of the later rounds, we haven't really got as good series in the NHL as we have here in the NBA with just that Spurs Thunder series. And I mean, we can talk about the finals here. We're definitely gonna get into it, kind of break it down, get my predictions. But I do just kind of want to talk a little bit about, these previous years. Just like I said, I haven't really talked about them, but San Antonio goes into OKC, wins game 7, 111-103 behind 22 points and 7 boards from Victor Wembanyama. Stephon Cass also just really stepped up in this series. I mean, I'm a big college basketball guy, so I was a big believer in him at UConn. I mean, he played really kind of a similar role there for that UConn team being so dominant as they were a couple of years ago when they won national championships. Like he's really just kind of a winner. He's kind of continuing to prove that. Like it's really just impressive how fast a lot of these guys here are developing for this Spurs team. Just like honestly, like this is not a run that I saw coming. Back in, I would say that many people saw coming back in November. Like I thought, like the Spurs, especially with Wemby, like they are going to be a force to be reckoned with here. But I feel like they are kind of ahead of schedule. Like I really thought, OKC was probably going to have another year or two here of dominance. Like I really thought OKC, just for that reason, was going to win this game 7 here on Saturday night. But San Antonio just kind of took it to him, especially Chet Holmgren. Like Wemby has so much hate in his heart for Chet Holmgren. And, I kind of love it. Like I love the rival. Like this rivalry, I think already, I think we're going to see a lot of it. I know, I'm saying here we haven't had, a repeat champion in however long. I think that's going to change, or, repeat champion, or even just like teams making the finals. I think that's going to change next year in the Western Conference, where I think we see, OKC or San Antonio again. I don't know, maybe somehow Minnesota really does make a lot of moves in this offseason and, finally gets over the hump. I mean, they've been, in the mix with those two teams, but definitely kind of a tier below them. So we'll say, kind of see what happens there. But yeah, San Antonio just really impressed me. And it was really just a big game from Julian Champagnie. And that's another one you can laugh at, the Sixers waiving him for Mac McClung to compete in the dunk contest. Just kind of funny. It was already, everyone was kind of ragging on the Sixers for trading Jared McCain. And honestly, this one's even worse because now Champagny finds himself in the finals, playing a big role in this one. Like I said, 20 points, 6 of 10 from beyond the arc, just an absolutely huge game from him. Then obviously, Wemby was 22. De'Aaron Fox, 15 points for him. Like he's been a veteran presence. I feel like I talked about that on this show when he came here. Like I want to say that was one of the first fast break episodes I did where I was, getting comments about Victor Wembanyama. And I said, San Antonio, it might not be, some free agent destination city, but when you have a player like Wemby, and I literally think it was about this De'Aaron Fox trade to San Antonio, you have guys that are going to want to play with him. And when you put guys around him the way the Spurs have, that's why they've had just so much success. A guy like De'Aaron Fox and Stephon Castle, like such a great backcourt there. I mean, Devin Vassell's really kind of come into his own. Guys like, Keldon Johnson, Carter Bryant, even Dylan Harper has been really impressive. And that's the thing. You've got like Wemby, just makes all his teammates that much better because you just have to focus on him. So just really impressive game from him, but really even more just the other pieces that kind of stepped up around him. Obviously, Shai goes for 35, and a lot of the discourse with Shai. I mean, he is the league MVP for second straight year here. A lot of the discourse about just, his flopping, his antics, stuff like that, which, is very fair. But, I mean, he's one of the best players in the league. I think that's what is so frustrating about a lot of that stuff is he doesn't need to do it. Like, he's just so talented and skilled that he could score without, flopping all over the place and stuff like that. So we'll see if maybe, the league kind of cracks down on that. I mean, we can get into that later, just some of the ways the NBA likes to crack down on stuff, probably too aggressively, but then other things that they're not super, urgent to take care of, here with they're all over the draft lottery and the tanking this year when I really feel like, a lot of the bad teams are just due to how loaded this draft class is going to be. But, this is final year here of the current lottery system. Obviously the last 10, and we won't get into that today. But yeah, Shai goes for 35, like has a really good game. He had a good series. I mean, he had like one, I forget which game it was, like one of the games that wasn't super great, but for the most part, like was the best part in the series. Really the disappointing guy is Chet Holmgren. He scores 4 points, only takes 2 shots in this game. Like Wemby just has him so psyched out. Because like I said, like Wemby cannot stand Chet. And anytime he sees Chet on the other side of the floor, like he's going at him, he's taking it to him. And he did that all series. And Chet, honestly, game 7 just kind of folded. Like he needs to figure out something this offseason. Or in all honesty, like, you give him all this money, but he might be getting moved to a different team where they kind of have to get a different Wemby stopper, a different big to kind of combat what Wemby has going there. Because yeah, just this performance from him just wasn't acceptable in all honesty, especially here in game 7. I mean, Lou Dort also like pretty much got played out of the series, like such a good defender, but really struggled offensively. He only scores 3 points here in game 7, 1 of 4 from beyond the arc. Like the Spurs pretty much all series were just like, we'll let Lou Dort score on us. We'll leave you open. We'll make him beat you. And it worked. So, I think we're going to be getting a lot of this series here in the future. Like if this is the Western Conference Finals again next year, again, this might be a little recency bias. You still have a whole offseason, see kind of how things unfold. But I would say right now, like these are the 2 best teams in the Western Conference, hands down. I'm so glad that we got 7 games of the series, like especially after how good game 1 was an instant classic. Granted, there definitely were some stinkers, but it went back and forth. And maybe it wasn't the greatest game, but the Spurs like really just kind of stepped up in the big moments and ended up taking this game. And like I said, I wasn't sure if they were quite ready for it. You kind of do in the NBA have to take your lumps, like as a team. Like there is kind of levels to success in the playoffs. I mean, you can kind of see it with Detroit here this year. Like, yeah, they're the 1 seed and they lost, they made it last year. Like they're continuing to progress, like, but we'll see how far, they kind of go. I think, maybe now next year, I'd have a little bit more faith in them. And granted, injury stuff like that, but they get beaten by a Cavs team in the second round that just had that more success. And really, even then, you can kind of transition here to the Knicks. And why don't we do that here? Knicks sweep the Cavs. They sweep their last 2 series after going down 2-1 in their opening series to the Hawks. The Knicks have won 11 straight playoff games. They just dominate the Cavs 130-93. And like I said, they're a team that's, they've been in the playoffs here last year. They get to the conference finals, lose to the Pacers. This year, they're back in the conference finals, and they've just absolutely run through the NBA. Like I said, granted, they didn't have to play Boston, but that's kind of, that's what happens. Boston got beaten 7 by Philly, even though, I kind of thought Boston was a better team. They just really, kind of fell apart late in that series, blowing that 3-1 lead. And then the Knicks really just kind of walked like right through it. Like I said, 11 straight playoff wins. It went from, they're down 2-1 to the Hawks, and it's kind of like, what's going on with this team to now they've really figured out because Karl Anthony Towns has been playing like a madman. He had 19 points 14 boards in this closeout game here. Jalen Brunson obviously has been huge as well. 15 points for him as well as 5 assists. And then even 15 from Mikal Bridges and 17 from OG Anunoby. OG Anunoby's really stepped up for this Knicks team, both offensively and defensively. I think, he's probably going to get the Victor Wembanyama assignment. And I think that's going to be, kind of a fun battle to watch. I feel like they're going to have to kind of throw some unorthodox looks at him. It can't just always be Cat being the one to have to guard Wemby, so we'll kind of see how that goes there. But I'm really excited for this series. Like I mentioned, like I said, the Knicks are just absolutely rolling right now. 11 straight wins. They sweep the Sixers. They sweep the Cavs, where just a lot of the games really weren't competitive. I mean, game one, Cleveland had in the bag. Like I said, I haven't been able to, just because of my work schedule, watch a lot of these games live. Kind of had to watch them back or just watch highlights kind of thing. But I remember checking my phone, being Cleveland has this game in the bag. This one's over. The Knicks, what's going on here? It was a little bit of a, like I said, they sweep Philly. So they had such a long time off for the Cavs, who play a 7-game series with Detroit. And it seemed okay, the Russ versus Russ, they came out so slow. They came out rusty. That's something they're really going to have to avoid here in game one on Wednesday. But like I said, they just turned it on in the fourth quarter. Brunson really took over in that one. And, kind of when you win a game like that, it almost just seemed like the series was over, where it's that's just a gut-wrenching loss for the Cavs, where they have it in the bag and they blow it. And especially, I mean, like I said, I liked the addition of James Harden, but that's kind of what you get here in the playoffs is game 4, they gave up. The Cavs were putting up a good effort, hoping the Knicks would maybe give them a gentleman's sweep, lose, kind of let the Cavs win one game in Cleveland, go back to New York, finish the series, or maybe, we'll see what happens there. But then once the Knicks just kind of kept battling, the Cavs were all right, y'all got it. We're good. We're good. This is y'all series. Y'all beat us. We're good. Y'all can have it. So Cavs are going to have to figure out, a way to have some more fight. I mean, that's kind of what happens with a James Harden team. Donovan Mitchell, that's a decision they're going to have to make here, where I feel like he is a good enough second option on a championship team, but I don't think he's good enough first. And that's kind of what they have here in both Donovan Mitchell and James Harden. And obviously, they've gotten a lot older, going from Darius Garland to James Harden. Granted, I don't think Darius Garland probably is good enough. Has to be your third best player on a championship team kind of thing. So they got a lot to figure out. Especially Jared Allen only had 6 points, 3 rebounds in that game. Evan Mobley 15.7 boards, not a terrible game from him. But yeah, just really not a whole lot of fight from this Cavs team, and the Knicks just kind of end up rolling. So that's what we got here now in the NBA Finals. We got game 1 Wednesday on ABC at 8:30 Eastern time. And these two teams, they got some history here. And honestly, I think we might have to start respecting the Cup. If you don't already, respect the NBA Cup. # respect the Cup. I tweeted that out because we have an NBA Cup championship game rematch here for the NBA Finals. And also, the first 2 years here at the NBA Cup, it's kind of been a precursor to success having down the road. Granted, the Pacers, it was the following year where they make the NBA Cup Finals and then make the NBA Finals the following year. Last year, OKC loses in the NBA Cup Finals to the Bucks, then makes the NBA Finals. Then this year, we have both teams from the NBA Cup playing in the NBA Finals here. So a rare time where it's 3 season meetings between the two teams playing the NBA Finals. The Knicks obviously won that NBA Cup championship 124 to 113 back in December. And then the other 2 meetings these two teams have had this year were God, it just went away. I just had it. The Spurs won 134 to 132 back on December 31st, but then the Knicks winning 114 to 89 back on March 1st. So the Knicks took 2 of 3 games this series. Granted, I'm gonna be honest, is maybe as good of a bit it is. I put very little stake in the actual, kind of NBA regular season going to the finals. I remember it back in the day, the Nets took all 4 regular season meetings against the big 3 Heat, and people were oh, the Nets can knock off the Heat, and then they met in the playoffs and the Heat beat them in 5. The postseason is just a completely different animal, especially just right here at the state of the NBA, where the regular season, in all honesty, is pretty useless, and then it's just the playoffs are just a completely another level. So it's also first year here, a little bit different schedule, not as many rest days in between. So it's game 1 Wednesday, but then game 2 on Friday. So it used to be Thursday, Sunday, so you'd have 2 days in between the games. Now it's only 1, which I like that better. I want more basketball. I want the basketball quicker. I understand it, which they're doing here when they travel, where then game 3 is on, back in the Garden is on Monday. So, then they have the extra day. Is kind of goofy that they're just kind of completely skipping the weekend. I guess they would do that before. And I think it's something to do here with like the uh, NBC part of the deal here now, where like NBC, since like I guess has some sort of like rights to the games on Sundays. I don't really know how officially it all works. I have to read it in. I think I remember reading something about that when this finals schedule was announced. Yeah. And then game 4, same thing, is just the one day in between then the finals game. So it's Monday. So it's Wednesday, Friday here in San Antonio for 1 and 2, and then Monday, Wednesday in the Garden for games 3 and 4. It then goes to 5, 6, or 7. We got June 13th in San Antonio, June 16th at the Knicks, and June 19th at the Spurs. So really the key in this series, I mean, all postseason, Victor Wembanyama has been the best player for the Spurs. Like I kind of mentioned, he's been making other guys around him better. But can the Knicks slow him down? That's going to be the biggest key in the series, of make other guys beat you. But, then, you do have to watch out for, guys like Steph Castle, De'Aaron Fox. Like the Spurs do have other talented options. But I really think they got to slow Wemby down, and they got to get off to a hot start. If the Knicks come out like they did against the Cavs and are just getting absolutely, boat raced, where it's just not a competitive game, it's all San Antonio, it's not like the Cavs, they're going to be able to come back on them. Like, that's going to be a lot more difficult task. I think that's something the Knicks are going to struggle a lot more to come back from, just because San Antonio is that much better of a team. So I really think the key for them, obviously, slowing down Wemby, hot start, stuff like that. I really think this matchup with Stephon Castle versus Jalen Brunson is going to be a really good one as well. These are like the two best guards on each team. Guard play, big advocate for it in the NCAA tournament, but even a little bit here in the NBA, like guard play, you can take over a game, whether, it's dishing the ball off or, if they're hitting tough shots, which Jalen Brunson, is very, very prone to do. Has, both those guys, like I said, have the championship experience in college, playing in the Big East. Shout out the Big East, by the way. They got five of the 10 starters here, and only 9 of the 10 went to college, played in the Big East. So basketball supremacy here in the Big East, especially, some of these games being at the Garden, home of the Big East tournament. So a lot of familiarity there. But honestly, like I said, I don't think that'll be an issue for Steph Castle. He just played really good defensively. On Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in this series, in the prior series, but it's just going to be like, is he kind of worn down from that? Like, I really do think this, like, rest versus rust game 1, how the teams come out, is going to play a big factor in this series, where if we, not by any means, like, the winner of game 1 is going to for sure win the series. However, I think if San Antonio is, like, all over the Knicks in game 1, I think that could be the case. I'm a lot more prone to think that than the other way around, where if it's like the Knicks, steal one in game 1, the Spurs for sure can steal one at the Garden. I think we are going to get a long series here. I think these are going to be, very, very competitive games. And, I very much could see this one going either way. I think, a lot of the talk was, just whoever wins the West is the champions. I don't think the Spurs are going to roll through this series by any means. Like, I don't think this is like a Spurs win in 4 or 5. I think we get at least 6, if not 7 games in this series. So I think it's going to be a long series, and that's where it is, once again, it's like the Spurs are just coming off a long series. The Knicks are coming off 2 sweeps. Like, can they use that rest advantage to their advantage, I guess? Because, you did see it in the Western Conference at times when, or even just this playoffs, like when Wemby is tired, he is not as productive as he used to be, or, he usually is. And like the OKC was definitely very much like able to take advantage of minutes that he was not on the floor. So if the Knicks are able to do that and, slow him down, like be physical with them, maybe he gets some, I don't think he will, but, maybe he gets himself thrown out of a game like he did in the Wolves series, where like he just has, like, he has boiling points. You can tell he uses that emotion to his advantage, plays very well with it. You can see, like, he's an emotional player. And I mean, that's kind of what, fired him up against Chet. So we'll see if, he has, maybe something in the back of his mind here that really gets him fired. I mean, obviously the NBA finals, like, you don't really need anything extra. Like, I sound kind of silly saying that, but my point is, like, can you maybe kind of get him to use his emotion against him? Like, have the moment be a little bit too big for him? Because like I am saying is, like, granted, the Knicks haven't been to the finals for a while, and, the Spurs have been to the finals more recently. Granted, no one from this team was on those teams, but, Greg Popovich, definitely, not the coach anymore, but still around the organization, can still wisdom, in these guys, kind of about what it's about. And like I said, there is, guys, collegiate championship experience. Wemby's like had, won championships, overseas. Like, there's guys with championship pedigree, but the NBA finals is a whole nother level. So it will be kind of interesting to see if, maybe finally that lack of postseason experience kind of finally catches up to them. Granted, like I said, didn't last series when they're playing the defending champs, but that's maybe something the Knicks could look to kind of take advantage of, and especially because, like they said, the Knicks are going to be more rested. Now, this changeover from Mike Brown to Tom Thibodeau. See, Tibbs, great coach, but does kind of, run his players in the ground a little bit, where now Mike Brown doesn't do that. He rests his starters, stuff like that, takes advantage, like has guys that can come off the bench and play a big role for this Knicks team. So I think this is going to be, a really good series. Let me pull up here the finals MVP odds, because, that I kind of think that's like when you get to like these later rounds of like who you want to, like, if you're, a betting person, like I'm usually not, but if you are, I think that's kind of more insightful, more the way to go than, trying to bet on just like straight up like who you think wins the series. So looking at the odds here, Wemby is minus 185 to win finals MVP, Jalen Brunson plus 210, Cat 1800, Stephon Castle plus 5,000, OG Anunoby 6,000, and De'Aaron Fox 10,000. So obviously, the heavy favorites here are the best players in the series, and Wemby is, the, minus money because he's, the Spurs are projected to win. If I have to make a pick, like I said, I'm really hoping we get 6. I think we get 6 or something. Like, I think these two teams they're just very competitive. Like, I don't think the Spurs are that much better than the Knicks that maybe, people are trying to make it out. I think, maybe if we got like OKC versus the Knicks, yeah, that I could have seen. Just like, I think the matchups lean a little bit more towards OKC in that, just because I think they have a better guard play, where now I would say the guard plays a little bit more even, and it's, obviously Wemby's going to be the best player on this floor, but Jalen Brunson also very much has the ability to be that best player. But I just think since San Antonio does have the home court advantage in this series, I think my official pick here, I'm going to go with the Knicks, or I'm sorry, not the Knicks. I'm going to go with the Spurs to win in 7 games. I think the Spurs win game 1 here on Wednesday night. I can maybe see the Knicks stealing 1 in San Antonio. I think the Garden is going to be a really tough place to play. Where like game 3, I'm going Knicks. So like I think we're looking at 2-1 either way after this, but I do think we get kind of 2-2 after 4 games. Where I think the Spurs could kind of respond there after game 3, and it's kind of similar to what they did in the OKC series. OKC really kind of beat the brakes off them a little bit in game 3. The Spurs responded with a big win themselves in game 4. So I think we get that. I think the Spurs, them probably would win game 5 at home, eliminate, like, chance to win it all at the Garden. I think the Garden would be rocking. I think that'd be really tough to do. And I think once again, we get a 7-game series, but that's where then, maybe, not really, just because once you get a couple games in, like I'd say everyone's, kind of equally worn down. But once, the Spurs are more accustomed now to playing 7-game series this postseason. And I think they would then win, game 7 there at home. So give me the Spurs to win this one in 7 games. That's going to be my official pick. I think, obviously, finals MVP, unless something crazy happens, like, it's going to be Wemby. Like, it would take like some like huge, like, Stephon Castle, I think, like game 7, like someone having a huge game 7 performance, and like maybe Wemby has like a bad game or two to maybe take it away from him. But you've kind of seen it too, like after like the goofy like Andre Iguodala finals MVP in 2015, like they've kind of just, it's really just been like whoever the best player is on the winning team ends up getting the finals MVP, just kind of for narrative's sake and all that kind of stuff. Not that like anyone has like had a bad series that's won it, in all honesty, but I feel like is just kind of what ends up happening. So I think that's gonna be my pick. I'm going Spurs in 7, Wemby finals MVP. So let me know your guys' picks down here in the comments. So I think I'm just gonna keep it to the finals preview for tonight's episode. And, I'm gonna try to do a couple more episodes here. We'll see if maybe we have like a game after game recap for one of these games this series. Maybe next Monday or something like that. After game 3, could go live after the game. We'll kind of see here how things go. And then, obviously after that, we got NBA draft, NBA summer league, especially as like a college hoops guy and myself. I'm definitely going to try to do some episodes talking about stuff for that. So definitely keep your eye out here for stuff over the fast break or on my channel, Shoot DaRock. Obviously check me out on all socials, Shoot DaRock, TTV. Literally follow me everywhere. That's kind of this time of year, like I said, is a little busy for me. I do work in baseball, so is kind of tougher for me to go live multiple days a week, like I was, during hoop season, stuff like that. So really just like Twitter, sometimes Instagram, a place that I'm most active right now. And like I said, we'll definitely be tweeting takeaways, giving recaps of these games over there. So make sure to check me out. Make sure to follow all the stuff over here at the Variety Sports Network. My guys at the 7th inning stretch doing a good job. Great job talking baseball, putting out episodes pretty close to weekly here. And we got Stanley Cup Finals as well. So we'll see if we get a 5-hole episode as well, talking some pucks. So appreciate you guys all for watching. So make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, drop your picks here down in the comments if you're watching live or watching here after. And I appreciate all you guys watching. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.